Hello? Hello? Please, I know you can hear us. We are trapped here in the spaces between worlds. It is a wonderful yet terrifying place, and only our voices escape. You can help us. You can let us in before we go mad.
The life and fights of Blister Jones, the Killer Canuck. Episode 1, Asian Persuasion. A flash of white light blinded me. Something wet trickled down my face. I felt in my forehead. An inch-wide hole sat roundabouts my temple. As soon as my vision came back, the room decided to rotate with me as its axis. The cushioned floor slammed against my cheek. Cheers and jeers assaulted me from the massive array of seating atop the reinforced glass dome.
Blister? Blister! Up! You really gonna let that chink rough you over? Come on, man, get your shit together. You can fight better than that. I've seen you fight better when you were still a squirmer. Now get back out there and show the slant eyes the violence we're known for here in the Americas.
Yelled the voice of a pudgy old man from a plexiglass booth on the side of the arena. I pushed myself off the mat. My head was spinning. Damn Asiatic tech. That metal spike went straight through my skull. Manchu Fu is no joke. I regained a little composure and sized up my opponent. Probably for the second time. He really fucked up my brain. Fortunately, Manchu Fu was busy stroking his long, thin mustache and riling up the crowd. The man was a beast. He towered over my meager 6'8" frame thanks to a set of robotic legs. His left fist had a pressure-triggered pneumatic spike. It was covered in blood and bits of brain. His right fist held a serrated set of blades. I was outmatched. Fu swung a low sweep for my legs with the blades. I tried to hop them, but my left foot snagged on the sharpened edge of the weapon. A couple of my toes bounced and danced on the mat. I went flying and hoped the rest of my brain wouldn't slide out the side of my head. Fu's swing pulled his whole body around. Then I saw it. A weakness worth the second trip to the floor. Pistons expanded and contracted on the back of every mechanical joint. Should be able to pinch them closed, I thought as I rolled aside of Manchu's spike. It pierced through the vinyl cushion. I felt a concussion ripple through the ground from the pneumatic force. Fucking Christ. It's a miracle I'm even alive after taking a hit from that thing. I found my feet under me and hopped up. The brain damage was affecting my movements even worse now. Felt like the right half of my body was lagging behind by nearly a second. I made the necessary adjustments to compensate for the delay. All right, here we go. Nothing left to do but do. I put up my genetically enhanced dukes. I hopped around the ring, pretending to be as fresh as when I had stepped in. Manchu Fu chuckled. He knew I wasn't 100. I shrugged it off and focused on the plan. I took a lunge forward, getting inside. I faked a right and hooked a left into his gut, which, not so coincidentally, was just about as high as I could reach on the giant. Fu huffed. He retaliated with a swipe of the blades. His blow caught my shoulder and dragged me back onto the mat beside his metallic leg. Right where I want to be, I thought. I grasped the piston on the back of his knee and pressed until it leaked a viscous black fluid. In the same motion, I slid myself behind him. Manchu Fu tried to turn, but his leg crumpled under him. "Bong Badan!" said Manchu. I came up under his legs and tossed him to the floor. He fell into a heap. His arms flailed uselessly out of striking range. I pounced, crimping every tubular piece of metal I could get my paws on. Soon, Manchu Fu was a useless nugget. I heaved his heft of a scrap heap over. His torso wriggled like a skewered worm on a fishhook. His facial hair-framed lips stretched in a miserable shriek. I couldn't hear it. All I heard was the deafening cheer of the crowd. They started chanting, "Blister! Blister! Blister!" I lifted Fu's spiked arm over to his chest. The roar of the crowd grew in anticipation. I pressed the point against his ribs. Manchu leered up at me with those little slits of eyes. Little hazelnuts bagged at me from behind puffy lids. They pleaded for life. Somehow, I knew. I knew that mercy has no seat in this arena. The spike piston activated. His chest cavity imploded. Blood and gore showered over me. The cheers amplified into downright hysteria. I raised my fist in victory. Manchu Fu was no more, and the Philippines were safe. I collapsed into a heap. Black replaced my vision.
"You goddamned ape, you did it!"
said a familiar voice. I floated in a glass cylinder filled with clear reddish fluid. I didn't recognize the man outside of it. "Brain first," I said, not understanding why I said it. Manchu Fu knocked out my recall. Complex machines interpreted my gurgling through the fluid and relayed it to the familiar stranger.
"Repairing now,"
said the man. Chemicals flooded my chamber. The hole in my skull refilled with tissue. Neurons retread their old paths. Information flooded my mind. Memories came rushing back. "Ah!" I screamed from the pain. Then I remembered. I was Blister Jones, the pride of Canada, prize fighter for the Americas. "Foggin' hell," I exclaimed. "Manchu Fu almost made a kebab out of me."
"Yeah, but you're still here kicking,"
stated the man. I recognized him now. This was Keaton Red, my handler, best trainer and gene magician in the biz. "You've best got something better to augment me up. Manchu Fu was a fluke. It'll be dumb luck to pull another victory out of my rear without some serious upgrade."
"I've got you. Next up are some top-tier augments I cooked up using some alligator and rhino from the Santa Fe Zoo. Should give you the edge in your upcoming fight. Skin tougher than steel. What more could you ask?"
A few Cybo upgrades would be at the top of the list.
"Bah, metal? Not in the queue. You're a meat man through and through. It's our image. You don't cave to the mechanical temptation. Blister Jones is homegrown, not manufactured,"
said Red. "But for how long? These new Cybo warriors are outclassing me. I need an edge. I need something hardcore to beat them once and for all." Keaton shrugged.
"I don't know how to get you what you want without angering your fans. You're Blister Jones. You're a genetic freak, not a computer. Not to mention your kills. You've slayed every mechanical bastard that's come your way. It just doesn't make sense. Blister Jones needs to stay organic, or we'll lose that touch of American exceptionalism."
"Screw exceptionalism. I want to live. It was touch and go with Manchu Fu, and it's only going to get worse. I'd like a fighting chance." Keaton paused, his face scrunched up in conflict.
"All right, I've got something,"
he said.
"I'm not sure it's ready, but I've been cooking it for a while. Nothing metal. I'm still not willing to blaze that firestorm. This'd be a bone density upgrade, courtesy of the hero shrew."
"Good. Do it,"
Don't be so eager. It's gonna hurt. Your human parts were not meant to be stretched on such a frame.
So be it. I'm no pansy. What's the matter?
This is a risk-reward type situation. The bones are gonna be a hell of a lot harder to break, but you'll be heavier. You definitely won't be as quick on your feet anymore.
Should be worth the risk. I can make the proper adjustments. Besides, fleet as I am, Manchu still managed to stick one into my noggin. Keaton nodded after a moment of contemplation.
All right, here goes. You ready?
He asked. Always, I replied. Numerous needles lowered from the roof of my chamber and prodded me. The programmed viruses went to work on my flesh. The first symptom was nasal congestion. The pressure gave my brain case a good ache. Then my skin rippled. It burned furiously as it thickened and roughened. My bones started to feel heavy. They tore at my musculature. The agony was nearly unbearable. I screamed into the fluid with fury and pain. My consciousness flickered in and out.
Blister? You all right?
Asked Keaton. I'm good, I stammered. I gritted my teeth against the red-hot rage that radiated from my skeleton.
Excellent. You're slotted to face Samurai. Everyone is looking to the Killer Canuck to reclaim New Zealand from the Asiatic Menace.
I hope it's a crowd, because I'm gonna rip him limb from limb.
Cool your juice, Blister. Samurai is no spring chicken, that's for sure, but he's got the brains of a master manipulator and tactician. Samurai's been active from the start. Don't let his age deceive you. The Japs have him decked out in more armor and prostheses than a cybo nut. He's more machine than man now.
I'll manage, I said.
Yeah, managed to put another hole in your head. This is serious. Don't let him play you the fool. New Zealand is just screaming for some American freedom, eh? They're due a delivery of Killer Canuck.
It's a shipment they'll receive. I'm fired up. That brush with death was an epiphany. Blister Jones won't be beat. I'm better than that. I'm the Killer Canuck. I waited for my musical cue. Rip and Tear by Chaos Carnage Collective echoed from the speakers. I stepped into the limelight. The crowd erupted at my appearance. Screams and rabid clapping announced my entrance. Samurai stood in his corner. His yellow, glowing eyes appraised me with mechanical acuity. I gaped at the plates of metallic armor woven into his flesh. Strips of red alloy ran horizontally from his shins to his chest. A helmet that flared at the sides and around his neck sat riveted to his skull. A crescent of ornamental gold rose from his forehead like horns. One of those black demon mask things was grafted straight to his mouth, cheeks, and chin. Bizarrely, he wore only socks and sandals on his feet. Keaton Red had been right. Samurai was more machine than man. I had my work cut out for me. But something was off. Most of the other cybos I had faced had some kind of nefarious weapon to accompany their armor plating. Samurai was different. I couldn't see any blade, bludgeon, or spear on him. Nothing but the iron entwined with his knuckles.
Yakutatazu, Mizabukure, Ai Anata wa Hirowa Rete Sute, Raneru Beki, Kasabuta Desu, Shi wa Kakegu Seo,
said Samurai. The slant eyes in the crowd cheered. They started to chant, Samurai, Samurai, Samurai. I'm not sure what you said in that backward slosh pit garbage dump of a language, but know this. Blister Jones is gonna rip that mask off of your face and feed it to you, I replied. The markedly Anglo-Saxon portion of the audience roared with equal fervor. The time for trash talk, or whatever Jap gibberish Samurai had spouted off, was over. Now was the time to fight. I tested my new bones by bouncing around on the balls of my feet. I felt damn heavy, but my new musculature could handle it. I was sluggish but strong. I readied my fists. Samurai didn't even move. So I made the first strike. I darted forward and punched at his metal face with my left hand. I didn't even see the blade. All I knew was a hot pain that radiated from my wrist to my elbow. I heard it, though. A metallic swing rang out across the arena. Blood spattered over the padded floor. My blood. A something thudded to the mat. Instinctually, I darted back, raising my arms in a defensive position. It was only then that I saw a distinctive lack of limb from my elbow onward. My hand and forearm were gone.
Damn it, Blister. Get your head in the match. Samurai's an old head for a reason. Don't go underestimating him again,
yelled Keaton. Christ, I thought as I clamped down on my bleeding stub. I'm about to be mincemeat. I couldn't even see his weapon. How am I supposed to fight this guy? Samurai didn't even press the attack. He stood there. If I could see his mouth, I'm sure it would have been curled up in a malicious grin. As it was, his narrow eyes leered at me mockingly. My brain worked overtime trying to parse out a weakness. Then it hit me. Can he even move? I didn't see him walk into the ring. That armor's gotta be damn heavy. Maybe he's like a tortoise, all shell and bite, but slow as molasses beside that bite. The flow of blood coming from my severed elbow slowed to a trickle. Slowly, I crept to Samurai's side, watching for that damned blade. I thought I saw a glint of fear in his black eyes. I sidled the edge of the ring until I was behind him. How many licks does it take to get to the center of a slant-eyed cybo? I wondered. A hush fell over the arena. I fully committed to my attack. As I pounced, Samurai spun with incredible agility. This time, I saw the curved katana swing out from where it was hidden in his arm. The lack of movement had been a ploy. Samurai lopped off my left leg through my thigh. The blade sliced clean into my right, but bounced off my femur. I pulled myself closer until his shoulder was in my armpit. Finally, I was inside the range of his weapon. Red's warning about his strategic genius had been useful after all. Samurai and I had been playing a game of chess, and I had just sacrificed my queen to put him into checkmate. I grabbed the bottom rim of his kabuto and ripped it free from his head with a squelch. Pale scalp, bits of black hair, and bloody pulp pulled away, exposing the double bubble pink of his brain case. A bundle of wires sparked and sputtered from their home in his brainstem. I yelped as I fell hard on my injured leg. Samurai's whole body went limp. He collapsed backward onto the mat. A ring of dark threatened to overtake my vision from the blood loss. I crawled across Samurai. With the last of my strength, I pried his demon mask from his face and slammed it through his ragged jaw. I passed out as the crowd cheered. Blister! 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 I grimaced as I woke in my tank. The familiar pain and tingling of regrowing limbs slithered uncomfortably up and down my left leg and arm.
Man, Blister, what a show. I thought Samurai had you there, but you pulled it out in prime Killer Canuck fashion,
said Keaton. Yup, but I'm getting real fucking tired of being carved up like a salmon on St. Trudeau's Day.
I hear ya. I got some real good upgrades cooking for you right now. I just need a little more time to hammer out all the dents.
I don't know, Keaton, I said. I'm starting to think it's about time for Blister Jones to hang up his Stetson hat. A look of utter terror flitted over Red's face for an instant before he laughed loudly. I laughed with him, even though I was only half joking. Somehow I knew he was only half laughing. "So, what do you have ready?" I asked.
Nothing too much, nothing too little. Bit of gorilla, touch of mantis shrimp. It should help you mitigate the weight of your new bones and put a little extra kick in your punches.
That sounds all right. But come on, Keaton. Surely you got something a little more exciting. Keaton Red gave me a sly smile.
You know me too well, Blister. I just got in some pangolin to play with. Eventually, I'd like to replace all your skin, but the most I'm comfortable with now is just the knuckles. Should let you punch through them Cybo's armor, and if I did my job right, you shouldn't even be able to see the difference.
Cocktail of gene-twisting viruses, nutrient-laden calories, and type O negative entered my bloodstream. Searing pain. My fingers tingled. I looked down at my hands. My fingernails were multiplying and spreading up. They split and hardened in a latticework until they reached the middle of the back of my hand. When it stopped, I had a series of overlapping tan-armored scales over the tops of my fingers.
Shit, I guess I didn't do my job right,
muttered Keaton. I flexed each finger to check its mobility. Well, they still move the same at least, I said.
Bah, it is what it is. Anyways, they got something special lined up for you.
Not sure I like special.
You'll like this one. You'll be facing the Siamese twins. This one's for the whole mainland Australia. The Asiatic Menace is contesting our claim.
Twins? You can't be serious. I gotta fight two of these Cybo slant eyes at once? I asked with a scowl on my face.
That's the best part. You're getting a partner. Down under Darcy, scourge of the outback.
Keaton, you know how I feel about working with members of the fairer sex. Keaton Red just shrugged his shoulders.
Out of my control, Blister. You know how it is.
I barely had time to speak to Darcy when we awoke in the room beside the arena. The first thing I noticed was how lithe she was. Nothing more than a slip of admittedly well-toned sinew with a few sleek robotic upgrades. Her left eye was just a camera lens below the brim of one of those silly Aussie slouch hats. She had some strategically placed plates of shiny steel over her most vulnerable parts. Despite this misfortune, she was still quite the looker. She'd almost be pretty if she hadn't fucked up her face with the Kodak.
Blister Jones! You're a legend, mate.
She called out.
I've been following your career ever since you splattered Athabascan Jack to retake Alaska from the Soviets.
Simpler times, I reminisced. Back then they didn't make me babysit a woman.
Babysit? I reckon it'll be me saving your ass. You senile old drongo.
I had no idea what a drongo was, but her tone told me it was nothing good. Sure. What'd you fight for training? Roos, dingoes, and spiders? Siamese twins are Cybos, not some ratty bush critters. Down under Darcy opened her mouth, no doubt with some witty remark on the tip of her tongue, when the arena door opened. A bastardized version of Rip and Tear roared past the sound of the cheering crowd. The song had been slowed and mixed with some trash that must have been some Australian rock number.
What's this bogan shit mucking up my song?
Darcy asked no one in particular. I actually chuckled a bit at that remark as we entered the ring. I, Blister Jones, the Killer Canuck, and Darcy Down Under, Scourge of the Outback, whipped up the crowd into a frenzy. Even some of the slant eyes cheered in adoration. It was bizarre. It was spectacle. I was old enough to remember when wars were fought with guns and explosions. No one believed it when they announced the arena. All we'd known were the constant skirmishes on the other side of the world. Near enough to feel real, but far enough away that you didn't care. After all, there were mouths to feed. After all that blood and chaos and economic depression, the arena felt like the half-remembered dream of an impossible future. War without destruction, military budget slashed to a fraction. It didn't feel feasible. Why would the world agree? No one could agree. That's why we fought.
Blister, eyes up,
growled Keaton.
Fight's about to start. Up and at 'em.
I shook the memories out of my head in time to see the Siamese twins cartwheeling in tandem into the arena. The duo looked fucking weird. Both of them had a metal rectangle box over their torsos. Every other Cybo upgrade seemed to be made of a non-metallic polymer. Their legs and arms were entirely synthetic, but their unaltered, slightly more identical faces than their slant-eye brethren poked above an armored collar. Neither one of them had hair or even eyebrows. Frankly, they looked like easy prey for the Killer Canuck, let alone two pissed-off gladiators from the American Empire. I led the charge, or at least I thought I did. Darcy darted forward with incredible speed. She ducked a swing from the rightmost twin. Seeing the bowie knife in her hand, I drove my fist toward its dull side. The blade, with my aid, sliced right through the polymer arm. It slapped to the mat with an odd, reverberating thud. I felt a sharp pain over my ribs. With a tug, the pain erupted across my entire back. I dropped to the mat. Looking up, I saw the whip barbs pull free from my flesh. The nine-tailed whip darted toward Darcy. She sidestepped it with ease. Her movements were fluid but staggered, choreographed and unpredictable. I struggled to keep up with her agility. It was like she moved faster than I could see. A curve of metal arced through the air, severing the strands of the whip attached to the other twin. Darcy caught it with her iron hand. I put my knuckle scales to the test by striking the back of the right twin. A sizable dent appeared in the armor, and the man from Siam cried out in pain. His remaining arm batted me across the ring. I landed on my back and smeared a trail of blood over the mat.
Come on, Blister. You gonna let these ghoulies push you around?
Shouted Darcy. I popped up and looked toward her. Finally, I recognized the shape in her hand. Is that a boomerang? I thought projectiles were banned in the arena.
They said as long as I catch it, it doesn't count,
she replied. By now, the left twin was on me. Two long claws extended from between his knuckles. They slashed past me and clipped the hairs on my thigh. I punched. The claws cracked into useless shards of fiber. His fist, however, remained functional. It rammed in my chest, and the broken-off claws dug two shallow gouges. I was knocked several paces back. Down under Darcy chucked the boomerang. It curved past the armored collar and stuck in the neck of the still leftmost twin. He gurgled as he tried to speak past the tracheal obstruction. Darcy jolted forward at that breakneck gait.
See? Doesn't count as long as it doesn't hit the mat,
said Darcy as she wrenched the boomerang free from the twin's neck. The sound of electrical humming drew my attention to our remaining foe. I was buffeted by the air generated by his velocity. He didn't even look like he was moving his legs. I turned to warn Darcy just in time to see the dead twin being dragged across the floor, seemingly by nothing. Darcy was right smack between them. The Siamese twins' rectangular armor met with a crack. Down under Darcy erupted into a geyser of blood and gore. The only thing left was her hand, still clasped around the boomerang. Fucking Christ! I shouted as bits of meat and metal showered the arena. How could I be so stupid? Siamese twins! They're conjoined! The twin, carrying his dead brother as a rampart, charged at me. He disengaged the magnet, sending the body hurtling toward me. I mostly avoided the strike, but the corpse battered my left leg and hand. I twirled in a semicircle, my ankle and wrist shattered. The living twin was pissed. A sword shot out between his knuckles. I dove right and feinted left, growling at the pain in my foot. The polymer blade caught me in the side. It scrambled my insides. Desperately, I punched. My fist drove through the collar into his jaw. I gave another punch. My armored knuckles carved right through the side of his head. Gray matter and brain case splattered the arena wall. The Siamese twin convulsed and dropped to the mat. I pressed my intestines back into my gut, raised one arm, and howled in triumph. I hobbled over to Darcy's boomerang. I grabbed it out of her dead hand and raised it over my head. The arena erupted. My brain spun. I blacked out.
Real shame about Darcy, but by God, you did it. The entirety of Australia owes you a debt, Blister Jones.
What are we doing? I asked.
What do you mean?
I mean, what are we doing? She didn't need to die. Keaton Red chuckled uncomfortably. This time I didn't join in.
I mean, she knew the risk,
started Keaton.
She understood the call. We're all volunteers here. You get me?
I'm not sure that's enough anymore. You get me? Why are we still fighting? This was just supposed to be a temporary measure. Why are we still at each other's throats? It just doesn't make sense, eh? Keaton's face fell. It dropped like a dog that knew it had done wrong, but couldn't quite rationalize why or how.
It is what it is. Life ain't as simple as we'd like it to be. There's forces at work, forces beyond our understanding, and they'd be none too pleased about this line of conversation.
I thought about pressing him further, but it would be no use. Keaton Red had already moved on.
So, upgrades. I think I finally got the pangolin debacle under control. Then we should focus on your speed. Say what you will, but down under Darcy, may she rest in peace, was leagues beyond you. We can't have the great Blister Jones falling behind the curve. I've got some cheetah and black marlin genes ready for transfer.
His words trailed away. I was too busy reliving, over and over, Darcy's untimely squishing. I had never before ever seriously thought about giving up. But now I just wanted to be normal again.